So, by and large, a CCG model is predicated on the lottery system. Okay, what do I mean by that? I don't mean pull rates, no. I mean how financial value is attributed to X card, okay? So the lottery system works very simply. People put in their money, and then someone wins, and they take out a larger portion of that money. That is exactly the principle that we use to generally base the secondary market on, okay? Everyone is buying product, everyone is putting money into the market, and then someone finds the high-end cards, the legendary cards, the Marvel cards, the cold fall chase cards, and they are able to extract from that lottery a portion of the prize equivalent to rarity and chance at which those cards are actually pulled and received. The issue with Flesh and Blood, well, no, let me rephrase. Not necessarily the issue. The difference with Flesh and Blood is that model is not working, because that model is no longer predicated on rarity, on chance, on ability to pull X card. It is predicated on what card is playable, right? If a legendary is more playable than another legendary, it's going to see a jump in value despite having basically the same odds to be received by anyone playing this lottery when it comes to opening Flesh and Blood. The issue that then stems from that, okay, so this is the big issue, is that as this continues to progress, as cards are being valued higher and higher, are skewed away from one another, the community becomes de-incentivized to participate in the lottery system. And if no one is going to play the lottery system, right, if the only people buying tickets are, again, buying tickets in a mass amount and skewing the market more and more, then the system falls apart, right? Value can't be attributed based on the investment by the community, how much a set is enjoyed and loved, but simply by what is the current price point of boxes, and then statistically and accurately, what is the pull rate of cards versus playability, rather than a set has a release of say 100,000 and 50% of the tickets are bought, but the set is still loved, and then based on rarity, we attribute a value to all the legendaries of around $200 that then escalates from that point, from that 200 points, against the cards that are then deemed playable. What we're seeing is we don't get that base value across different rarities. We don't have cards split up based on the chance to win said lottery. And while this isn't necessarily an issue for the majority of the community, right? Because if everyone is buying singles, then this point is moot. People are going to pay whatever they want to pay for the most playable cards. The issue stems that if we continue to move away from this model, from the model used by CCGs, then what is the point of being a CCG? We're morphing into a card game heavily dictated by playability, by cards that the players want. Therefore, the simplest thing to do would be to give the players the cards that they desire at reasonable values, right? If Legend Story Studios cut out the middleman, the box opening, right, and just released character sets, okay? $200, you get a legendary, you get X Majestics, and you get all these other cards to boost up your deck. Almost think of it like installments for D&D. This is the issue that is going to continue to amount as we continue to trek down this method of digesting and essentially diverting the profits or the investments into Flesh and Blood in terms of the secondary market. Now, that aside, what has beautifully happened is, unlike any other game, Legend Story Studios has established such a finely balanced secondary market overall. Okay, lottery aspect aside, the market is beautiful, okay, because it does accurately reflect players, right? A card that is more playable, a card that sees more play, is going to be valued a lot higher and a lot longer than most other card games because there is no rotation. The issue that stems from that as well is the fact that it's then easily disrupted, right? The Arcanite skull cap falling by the amount it did because Crown of Providence was now the best in slot. Similarly, if you then look at the chase cards, right? What are meant to be the attraction to playing this lottery. So for instance, the Marvel cards. We get rid of Legendary and just look at Marvels. What we see is, again, this heavy amount of skewing. Now, I believe the Emperor is less frequent, right? So his valuation is predicated on pull rate, which is great. This is a card that has actually stuck to the lottery model, if you will. But the issue stems from all the other marvels in Dynasty, okay? So you've got Soroya at the top, and then you have the worst equipment at the bottom, right? If you lock into the Marvel slot, this is meant to be the chase aspect of the game. Yet, if you get a Seasoned Savior, you're not hitting the general prize pool connected to this slot. And that, again, de-incentivizes people to open boxes to chase these slots, instead of just simply buying singles, buying full collections, which then of course leads to an overall increase in demand and card prices skyrocketing even more, right? The people who want to collect sets who are no longer using boxes as the medium to acquire the bulk of that collection, right? So for instance, for me, when a new set comes out, I will open until I hit certain things. If I collect all the legendaries, I'm going to stop opening. If I hit the Fable, I'm going to stop opening, because there is less of a chance for me to find cards that are new to me, and at that point it's better for me to buy the collection. The issue is, I can't now go, well, I have all the Marvels plus an extra Merciless Battle Axe, an extra Seasoned Savior. I'm going to trade them in for something better, because compared to the rest of the Marvel slot, again, they have such a lower value that realistically they're not worth me chasing in terms of opening boxes. I'm better off at that point stopping once I hit these high value Marvels, and then buying the rest of the Marvels, because again, they are so cheap in comparison. And that mentality overall is an issue when your model of delivery is, again, randomness, is again opening boxes to supply the secondary market. In terms of FAB 2.0, in terms of the player base, in terms of what Legend Story Studios have actually done in terms of the secondary market and the community of Flesh and Blood, have been fantastic. All right, this is probably what every player would love across every single card game, right? Cards hold value because of the non-rotational meta, and by and large, cards are well distributed across what is playable. But then there is no demand for the cards that aren't, right? So the codexes, despite being incredibly rare, the fact that the price is distributed so heavily towards the Frailty Codex, the one that is playable, is overall an issue in the long run, right? Because simply finding the Marvels is not winning the quote-unquote lottery. On Blood Rot, say you break even. On Inertia, you take a loss. And Codex of Frailty, you win big. Okay, that means, again, it's not simply about hitting the Marvel slot. It is about hitting a specific Marvel slot, which is a greatly lower odd than just hitting the Marvel slot. And again, it goes back to the de-incentivization of opening Flesh and Blood, of supplying the secondary market with all the extra cards. And now, in terms of Dusk Till Dawn, right? Dusk Till Dawn has very little going for it in terms of the lottery system, right? It has abundance of specializations that we're seeing, so it's great for the play base, but it isn't great for people wanting to open it. In terms of the Marvels, right? We're seeing this distribution that we saw in Dynasty and Uprising. If there are a greater amount of Marvels, they're going to be greatly skewed in terms of pricing. So again, it's no longer about hitting the Marvel slot. It's going to be about hitting the upper tier Marvels that actually see play. In terms of the serialized art cards, this is where it gets a bit unpredictable. Because again, on face value, those cards should be worth something, right? They are incredibly rare and they are special. But as a lot of responses I've seen, especially when I posed the question about prior to when they were in both printings, okay, a lot of the player base is not overly interested in them because, again, they're not playable. And if they're not playable, and if there's only a few people competing over pricing, well, certain cards are going to be better than the other. Flesh and Blood is very unique when it comes to its secondary market and how much it is directly dictated by playability rather than actual collectability. And that's the other thing to sort of keep in mind too. When I say collectability, when I say playability, I am differentiating the two. Okay, obviously a card being $1,000 means it is highly collectible. But what I mean in terms of collectability is the actual rate at which it's pulled compared to the rest of the set. Because the whole point of having these chase cards, these low printed cards compared to the bulk of the set, is that's what makes them collectible. They are the collectibles of the set, whereas the bulk cards are the playable cards of the set. And what we're seeing is amongst those collectible cards, those low print cards, some of them amount to actual collectability, and then some of them fall grossly short of what you'd expect of the actual slot when it comes to, again, pull rates, right? Finding a Marvel Dragon in Uprising and coming across this one, Uvia, You can't tell me you're not going to be incredibly disappointed by it, right? What was the point of chasing a Marvel when I get a $20 card out of it? And again, while you might not necessarily think this is an issue, while you might not think this is an issue now, I urge, and what I'm trying to do is think ahead, is think about the future of Fab, think about what everything is amounting to and what everything is currently doing. And in regards to, again, incentive to open boxes, we are losing that set by set. Okay, every set is getting worse in terms of opening in the long run.